Stanford University.
Welcome everyone to our Friday section of CS 193P. I'm Junjie, one of your TAs. And today I'm going to talk about the GitHub and the source control workflow in Xcode 9. So what is source control? Have you used some source control systems like GitHub? Yeah. So as a software developer, you would it's a necessary skill set for you to learn how to use source control systems. Like big companies like Facebook and Google, they all have their own source control systems. And it's very important for you to master those skills before you really go into the industry. So what is source control? Why should we matter? Why should we care about it? It allows you to track your code changes over time. You can revert your files back to a previous state. You can compare different versions of code side by side. And it also makes it a lot easier for you to work with other teammates. And when bugs happen, it's much easier to track it down. Today, our topic is one of the biggest source control system in the world, and it's built right into Xcode 9. Xcode 9 has done a lot of great things to integrate the GitHub into make it very easy to use. So I'm going to try to demo you some of the basics in Xcode 9, how to use GitHub. And before that, you should register an account in github.com. The repository, the public repository or a repo is free. And a repo is just like a code directory for you to store the code. And if you register using your Stanford email account, you can get the private repository for free. I highly encourage you to use a private repo to manage all your assignments, all your course projects. And it's much easier for you to collaborate with your teammates. And
Remind people not to make it public, though.
Yeah.
Never be in a public repository.
So that's why you want to register using your Stanford email. You would never upload your assignments onto GitHub using a public repository because you don't know who will just download all the code and copy out of no place. So last Friday's session, Jason also mentioned that there's a ProGit ebook that's really great for you to learn some of the basics of GitHub and the source control, some of the concepts. It's a really good starting point for you to learn those skills. I post a link here. You can check it out if you want. So there are three main components in Xcode 9 source control workflow, and I will go through each of them briefly. The first one is pulling and pushing. For pulling and pushing is dealing with your local changes and the changes in the remote repository. So for clone and pull, you can download all the code from the remote repository to your own laptop. Xcode 9 actually make it really easy to download the repository. You just click the clone and download button, and then open in Xcode, and Xcode will download all the changes for you. It's really nice, and I will show you how to do that in a demo. And another way to do it is copy out this GitHub repository address, and I will also show you how to do that in the demo. For the push, it's you make some local changes and you want to push to the remote so that you can visit it in another machine or share it to your friends. So every batch of code changes is called a commit. The commit is a snapshot of all the code changes and also the description message. It has the author, description message, and also the time. So I highly encourage you to make small commits instead of make a really big commit like only one commit for the repository. That's the like final finish, because making small commits makes it much easier to debug. The rule of thumb is like one feature at a time, and each commit should be self-contained. When bugs happen, you can easily like revert to the previous state without affecting the other files. So here's what the commit panel looks like in Xcode 9. You get the commit message here, and also the author, the branches, the tags, and remotes. We will go through these concepts in our demo. And here's the identifier is the char identifier for this commit. The last concept I'm introducing today is the branching. So each little commit, one after one, builds a code branch. In the GitHub repository, the most important one is the master branch. You would want to always keep your master branch clean, bug-free, and stable. And when you want to work on new features, you would like to branch from the master. So Xcode 9 is really easy for you to just right-click and create a new branch. The new branch will have the same code as the master, but when you keep developing your code, it won't affect the master branch. And after you finish developing all your features, you've unit tested your code, you can merge it back to master branch. I will show you how to do the branching in today's demo. So any questions so far? No? So let's go into the demo. So let's pull out Xcode. So before we do the fancy things in Xcode, we would like to set up the GitHub account in Xcode. So the way to do it is click on the Xcode, Preferences, and then Accounts. When you select the Add button, you can add like GitHub Enterprise. Enterprise is the when you work for a company, they will have the company GitHub account. So I'm gonna select the GitHub, and I'm using my Stanford email address. So we've already signed in, and before we jump into the code, we would want to make sure the source control is setting up correctly. So these options is like whether you want Xcode to download the remote changes for you, so that you won't need to pull the changes in command line. And when you click on the Git button here, you can set up some global ignore files. If you have used GitHub before, you know that there's a git ignore file, so that your files won't be checked by the GitHub system. So you can set up some global ignore files here. That means like .ds store files won't be checked by the GitHub. So let's start by creating a new Xcode project. Oops. Let's do single view, and then Git tutorial. And it's basically the same thing as we are doing on creating the new project for our homework. But the difference is that we want to select this button. So this is the mysterious source control button we never talk about in class. And this means that Xcode will initialize a Git repository for you. So we would select this button for this section. Hit create. And then we would have a Git repository, and we can inspect the source control button. A source control panel over here is on the top left, and the second button. It shows that we are currently at the master branch, And the initial commit is just some free code given by Xcode. They create, initialize, and then push the code for you. So let's make some change. Maybe I will delete this free code and then add a print line. And once I've saved the file, there's an M appeared here. That M stands for modified. Basically, it means that your local repository have some uncommitted changes. And let's also modify the storyboard. I want to drag out a button. And put it in the middle. Okay. Let's save the change. So now I have made some change. So I want to commit those changes. It's like clicking the source control here and then hit commit. Then a version editor will appear. And it's really nice because you can see your change side by side by clicking like the file name. And it shows that you've added one line and you've deleted some code. And if you click on the button in the middle, you can actually don't commit this specific line or discard the change. So let's also look at the storyboard. Maybe it's your first time looking the storyboard at this level. You generally don't like edit the file in this level. It's a XML file, so it's super complicated. After you've confirmed that this is the change you want, you would enter the commit message here. Added a button and a print. Notice that there's also a push to remote button here, but we don't have a remote now because the repository only lives locally. We don't have a remote repository in the GitHub. If we have the remote origin, we can push also to remote. And I will show you how to add the remote origin in a second. So now let's just commit the files. So once I do that, the M disappeared. And let's go back to the source control panel. Look, here's the commit I just made. And you can inspect it by clicking it and then select the button here. And it shows that the author, the date, and the branches, and also the files. If you want to inspect the changes, you can actually click on the assistant editor. I want my assistant editor on the bottom. And then when I click the file, it actually displays the changes side by side. You can easily see what files you've changed in this specific commit. And let's make more changes here, like print hello CS 193p. And over the source control button here, I can actually discard all the changes in my current repository that basically roll back to the latest commit. But I will show you how to revert to like several commits ago. So let's add this commit first. Add another print. But we should have like successfully commit because there's no M over the view controller. And say for this specific file, I want to roll back to 2 commits ago. I can open this source control button, and then it's a side-by-side comparison between your local revision and your commits. So if I select the commit 2 commits ago, I can see all my changes. And I can click on the button here if I want to like discard all the changes. Revert. So now my local repository have reverted those changes. Let's commit. Revert. Like I just mentioned, all the code now lives in my local repository, so there's no way I can share it to my teammate or like work on the other workstation. And also, if I just lost my laptop, everything will be gone. You certainly don't want that. So let's see like how to add a remote origin for this Git tutorial repo. It's super simple. Here, you just click on the remote and right-click. There's a Create Git Tutorial Remote on GitHub. And it allows you to select public or private repository. So since I'm using my Stanford account, I can get the free private repo. Okay, now we have a remote origin, and let's take a look. So here's my Stanford GitHub account. And there's a Git tutorial repository which is created. And it has all the files we've modified. And if you want to work in the other workstation, you can just clone or download and open in Xcode or copy the address. So before I show you how to clone, let me show you how to like add a collaborator. It's super useful if you want to work with the other teammate. So for this specific repository, you go to Settings and hit Collaborators. And basically, you need to know your friend's GitHub ID and you just type it here. For demonstration, I will add my personal account here. And GitHub will send an email to your friend, or you can just share this invite link. Let me copy it here and then sign in to my personal account. So I click on this link. And it says that you are invited to collaborate. So I can accept the invitation. Now I have the push access to this private repository. So another way to create a repo is by cloning the existing repo from the GitHub. Say I have a concentration private repo here, and I want to download it to my local machine. I can just hit Open in Xcode, and yes. So all the code was downloaded by Xcode. And the other way to do it is save this address, and then in our Xcode welcome page, you can select this clone and existing project. You can paste in the address and then just clone. So Xcode will do the exact same thing. It's just copying all the files from remote. The good thing is that in the source control panel here, you can actually get all the code changes for the repository, and you can also like inspect all the changes you've made. So for this specific repo, actually the master is very fully functional version, but I want to like work on the other new features that maybe I think is a little risky. So I can branch from master by right-click here, and I will call my new branch test because I don't have better names. So my current repository is set to test. Now it has the same copy of code as the master. Let's work on some risky new features. So that's to change the color of the button. Maybe I think blue is too ugly. I want to change it to red. And I commit this change. Notice that because we have a remote origin, we can actually select push to remote. And because the test branch only lives locally in my machine, actually Xcode can create that remote origin test for you. So you can commit and push. So in my current test branch, I have this change, but in my master branch is not my master branch is not affected. So if you want to switch back to the master, you can right-click on master and select checkout. Now my current branch is master, and when I go back to the storyboard, the button is still blue. Now say you've fully tested your code and you're saying that the button should be red instead of blue in the master. You can right-click here and then select merge test into master. The version editor is like for you to see whether this merge is what you want. Oh, another thing is that because the storyboard is an XML file, you would never want to merge the same storyboard with the other teammates. You can work on different view controllers, but you would never want to merge the same change, the change in the same view controller, because that's really, really painful. Oh, now we are at the master, and we also have the change button color here. And when I go back to the storyboard, oh, the button is now red. So we've successfully merged the change. And notice that our current master is ahead of the origin master. So another way to push to the origin is like click source control and then push. Now all my nodes are at the same snapshot. Another cool thing I want to show you is that they make it really easy if you want to inspect your commits. Like I have some commit for button. It will show all the commit message that has button in it. And you can also filter by author. Like author is Junjie. And you can also select last 24 hours, last 30 days. It's really helpful if you want to search your change. So that's basically all for our demo. Do you have any questions? No? Okay. So that's it for today. Thank you for coming, and good luck on your assignments.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.